buttons are important. All right. Wouldn't be a Garrett the Gamer stream without technical difficulties. That's the joke. That's what we're all laughing at. Ha ha hee hee hoo hoo. All right. Okay. I think we are ready to go. So,
Sweet.
I have no idea what my camera looks like, actually. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Garrett the Gamer stream. Actually, we are now a podcast, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Practically Reality Podcast. Y'all said we should make it into a podcast, so you can follow us on Spotify now. And we're going to try this for a little while. We are going to try doing the Practically Reality Podcast every Tuesday. We're going to chat, talk about different things. And I am joined, as always, by my good buddy Declan.
What's up, everybody? Hope you're all doing good.
We will be talking about the stuff today's topic of interest, Apple. So, well, I don't know. I feel like we need like some kind of intro thing, like to break the ice.
Yeah.
You just can't go straight into it. I don't know. See any funny memes? Any good?
No, but I saw something I thought was pretty dope in the gaming world. I don't know. Have you played any fun games this week? I played a ton of Deadlock. Like, I'm an addict to Deadlock now. I am terrible at it. I am so bad, but I love it. It's a ton of fun. I played it.
What is Deadlock?
So Deadlock is Valve's newest game.
Oh, yeah, you were talking about that last week.
Yeah, it's like a MOBA with a first-person shooter. So it's a 6v6 first-person shooter, hero shooter. I don't know. It's kind of like the Overwatch mixed with League of Legends is the best way to describe it. It's a freaking blast. It's hard though.
Awesome. That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
I jumped into Call of Duty this last week because they released a new game mode that I was having a blast with. It's called Throws Before Bows, and basically it is you get a bow and arrow, and you get a spear. And it's like two of the funnest weapons they put in Call of Duty in a long time. And holy crap, I had a blast with it. I was dropping like 40, 50 kills per game with it as well, which is awesome. Unheard of for me in Call of Duty. So having fun with that. But I just bought last night, I bought Warhammer. I bought Space Marine. I caved, dude.
Yeah, dude.
So I'm thinking I'll play that on Steam. No, I haven't. I downloaded it last night. It's a fetching big game, dude. That's a
it's
a hefty boy. So yeah,
I might have to buy it.
I don't know, but all my friends, no, like the people I usually play like casual games with, they're like Call of Duty like through and through. And last night I jump on and they're playing fetching Warhammer, and I was like, okay, I'll let's take advantage of some PvE instead of toxic PvP, eh? So. Yeah. I'm gonna play it. I might play it tomorrow on stream. I'm thinking of live streaming it as Breadbox. I'll do the Breadbox face again, so we can get the first impressions of it with chat. Let's say hi to chat.
Did you get it on PlayStation or Xbox?
Xbox. I got it on Xbox.
Xbox.
Yeah, nice. It just worked better for me. I've played Helldivers all on PlayStation. You know, like that hasn't really been. I'm not like a only Xbox guy, but this one, because like the people I know who play on Xbox, is why I got it on Xbox.
Yeah.
So.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah. Chat, what did you play this week? Anything fun? Let's hear. What's everyone playing? Best game mode ever. Dude, I agree, Monkey. It is such a fun Call of Duty game mode. It's been a while since I've been super interested in a game mode. That is what's up. PlayStation. Played some Sail. Woo!
Is it like Sticks and Stones? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, that's why it caught my eye. Is because I was like, this looks like it could be Sticks and Stones, and it feels very similar. Like, you know, you've got the crossbow for range, and then you have the spear, and the spear is interesting because you can throw it if you want, and it's a one tap, but it also has like a pretty far melee range, which makes it really fun in that way. But I don't know, just like I really enjoyed all of Call of Duty's modes they've done lately, where they level the playing field by just saying like, this is the gun you get, like sucks to suck, this is what you have, you know. So anyway, COD World War II.
I saw Astrobot. Have you seen that? That looks
yeah,
amazing.
Do you remember the Astrobot VR intro that they used to do?
Yeah.
That thing was amazing.
So they had a full game in VR. This is supposed to be similar. So it's for PlayStation, right?
Yeah.
And people are mad. The only negative thing I've seen about it is basically an advertisement for PlayStation. So it has like all of the old PlayStation IP throughout it. So like you see a little robot that looks like Kratos, and you see like Jack and Daxter robot, and like a bunch of callbacks to a bunch of old Sony IP that they're not. I mean, a lot of them they're not doing a ton with. Obviously, like God of War, they are, but it's just going back and looking back at a bunch of the old stuff, and I've heard it is amazing. I've heard that it is one of the best platformers to come out in a really long time, and I think it's been rated like 10 out of 10 by most of the big raters and like magazines and stuff in the industry, saying that it is as good as people are hyping it up to be. So I even watched like Moist Critical, and he talked about it and said that he loved it as well. So that's pretty high praise.
If Moist is praising it like that, that means it must be pretty darn good, because he does not give praise lightly. Like
he said it's cool. In his top 3 games of the year. Number 1 is still Black Myth Wukong. He said number 2 is Space Marines, and then number 3 is Astrobot. But if he plays Astrobot more, he said, and gets 100%, that might change to number 2.
Was he the one that
huge praise?
He dropped Helldivers, right? Like he at one point liked Helldivers and then was like, yeah, no more. Not happening.
I don't remember. I know like Pirate Software was one. He was one that he's like the programmer live streamer.
Yeah.
And he loved it, but
he was very critical of a lot of things with it, but that's just the
stupid stuff that Sony did. So
that's like the hard part for me is it's not their fault. Like the game is still so good. I love the devs. I love like everything they're doing with that game, but like it just kind of sucks that they have to adhere to all of Sony's crap.
For sure.
Dude, have you seen? So from our YouTube chat, we've got the L who says he loves playing Star Wars mod on Contractors. Have you seen all of the Contractors VR mods?
No, I haven't. That sounds crazy though.
They are amazing. Like
really?
Straight up. So you can straight up play practically Battlefront, like the old one, in Contractors at this point. Like I played it on stream a little while back, and it was hella fun, dude. Like it was so sick. My gosh. And they like
they're just mods.
Yeah, they're like mods that people have taken like the models and stuff and brought them in. But
okay, cool.
Like they have Star Wars Battlefront is a big one. They've got Halo, like all of the old Halo maps in it, and you can wear Spartan armor, use all the guns. They've got all the old COD Zombies maps. You can play like straight up zombies in multiplayer in virtual reality. It's insane. They've done some great stuff with it, and it's kind of like we should probably do a whole modding episode because that's like this really crazy Wild West right now. But
I feel like in VR modding is so important. I mean, a lot of the games that are out in VR, I feel like they have short lifespans, right? You play it for 10, 15 hours. Like some of them
wouldn't be Garett the Gamer stream without issues. The YouTubes. Are we back? My goodness. What happened, boys? What happened? I don't know. I don't even know that. I just thought it was like an F to pay respects from that one game where you had to go do the normal friggin' heck. Are we back up? Are we good? Yeah. We're almost there. Oh, my camera turned off. Nice. Declan, you entertain the people. At this point, I'm doing it. It's not even worth it. I told, because okay. All right. Yeah, you guys ready for some tea to be spilt right here now? Should be able to. Okay. Guys, you guys ready? You guys ready for some tea to be spilled? What is happening with my camera? Good golly. My camera is so messed up. What is happening? Very, very visual. Very visual. Super. It's exactly what the people want. Good. Look at this. Stretchy boy. Wouldn't be a Garett the Gamer podcast or anything without some absolute atrocious. Okay, I forget. They're like. What? Thick Garett. Wide Garett meme. I think we're back, boys. I think we're here. We've made it. Only took us 12 minutes. If the PC crashes again, I'm straight up throwing it out the window. Like, this thing's worth $600 to me at this point. Okay, but let me give you the tea on what has happened with this POS, okay? So, I bought this PC for my 3D artist to work on sale VR stuff, and it's beefy, right? It's got like the latest graphics card. It's got a shite ton of like RAM and stuff. Like, it was supposed to be a beefy PC. It crashes all the fetching time, but it's not like a full crash. What happens is the monitors go black, but if you're still like connected, you can still see like what's going on. Does that make sense? So like basically I sent it in. I sent it in and I was like, hey, like here's what's happening. Like I need you guys to take a look at this. I sent it into the manufacturer, which is Asus. Like I'm not afraid to say their name because I'm freaking sick of their products. I sent it into their repair shop and basically told them, hey, here's what's going on.
Yeah, so we're going to be finishing that and then we're going to
yeah, so we're going to be this works again, right? And they're like, okay, we'll take a look at it. They looked at it and were like, could not replicate the issue, return to sender. Okay, they just sent me the PC back. And I'm like, okay, I guess maybe there's not an issue. Maybe they're like, we did like the basic stuff, like, but we couldn't find an issue with it, so it's fine. And I'm like, okay, whatever. Send it back to me. Same thing happens again. Just keeps on crashing and whatnot. So I take it to the local, a local place here in Utah, and they were like, this is a CPU issue. It's been pretty common throughout the i9 series, and they're like, contact the manufacturer, ask for a warranty, and get the CPU replaced, and then like they should resolve it. It's like, okay, you know, that's fine. So I sent it in again, and I'm like, hey, I would like to like cash in on this manufacturing issue. Like, please, like, observe the warranty. Blah blah blah. Again, they send it back to me and say, could not replicate issue. Like, return to sender. And so at this point, I'm like, I'm never buying Asus stuff again, dude. Absolutely not. So anyway, it's been a whole thing. It's been a whole thing. So, bring back the weird camera. Oh man, now it's a thing. Jeez. Everyone wants it. Gotta do what the people want. Wide Garett. Oh jeez, dude. All right. Well, we're up again. Welcome back, everybody. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but y'all know if you're following me, if there ain't technical difficulties, it's not a true Garett the Gamer. It's an imposter. It's an imposter in the chat. We will not stop until you bring it back. Oh no. Oh no. What have we started? Oh goodness. Why does it say we're offline on TikTok? Come on. Yes, I did. Let's fetch and go. What do you mean his mic's not working? Oh, they're just getting my reactions to literally nothing. Excellent. Hang on. Wait, say something?
Hello, hello, hello. Can you hear
There we
me?
go, chat. Come on. If it's not working at this point, I quit.
Hello.
Chat, chat,
Am
chat.
I alive?
Can you hear him, chat? Please.
Are we working now? Hello.
I can hear him. Can you hear him now? That's gonna be
Okay.
a problem.
We got confirmation on Twitch that
Yes.
they can hear me.
Okay.
All right, so I was talking about there's an old game that I remember playing in like the early 2000s, late 90s, Backyard Baseball.
It's
It
on
was
like
super popular.
GameCube. I played it on the
Oh, dude,
GameCube.
I played on the PC. I was PC Master Race when I was like 5 years old. So, um, it's the original Backyard Baseball with Pablo, and somebody just bought the franchise, and they're bringing back all of Backyard Sports. So, Backyard Baseball is going to be the first one coming back out. It's going to be so dope. I'm so excited.
Low key, I hope they bring that to VR. That would be a fantastic VR
Oh
game.
my gosh.
Can
that'd
you
be so
imagine?
good.
Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic. Backyard baseball in VR, dude. Sign me the frick up, dude. I'll play the crap out of that.
Have you ever seen Meat Canyon? He's a YouTuber. He has another YouTube channel called Papa Meat. He's pretty funny. I think he does like pop culture shorts, animations in 2D.
Meat Canyon? I bet you I'd recognize him if I saw some of his stuff. I'm sure I would.
So he did a live stream of Backyard Sports, and he role played a coach that was drunk and like gambling on his sports team to win money. And I want to turn that into a video game where you're like coaching a little league team, kind of like Backyard Sports, but you have to like
But you're impaired.
bribe the parents or like beat up the parents to get their kids to play better and
make like a
like, all these
bully like
different-
video game, but it's like it's like a sports game. Yo, there's a whole genre that hasn't been explored, like edgy sports games, dude. Like, come on. Like you get like pay to have the
if the
kids
kid doesn't
like
perform. You like break their dad's kneecaps or something in the parking lot and like boost their mentality or something.
Or you can like duct tape the bat to the kid's hands, so like running to first base, he takes out at least one kid before getting there. Dude, that would be fantastic. Like combat baseball. Like, I'm putting that on the docket of things for Red Team to make.
Yeah, new concept.
Combat baseball. Like there used to be a franchise like that. What was it? It wasn't Backyard. There was another one where it was like Street Ball or something, where like you'd play basketball but it was dirty. You could just straight up start decking
NBA
people.
Street.
Yeah, dude, we need something like
I remember
that.
stuff on there. Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be a good one in VR, dude. Like
Yeah.
like combat. Like that'd be muy bueno, muy bueno, muy bueno.
I agree. That'd be fun.
We still got the weird camera. Still going strong. Oh, that's funny. Well,
You guys got to share the thing, and we should set a metric. If we hit a certain amount of likes, then your next stream of video games, you'll just do weird camera the whole time.
I don't even know what I did. Like, to be fair, I'm not sure I could recreate it if I tried.
I think we could figure it out in time for your next live stream of video games.
I'm sure we could figure it out. I'm sure we could. Man.
Well, today we kind of wanted to dive into Apple. I don't know if you guys have followed what's going on at all. Like, there's not any crazy news or anything like that. We're not talking about like any beef with Apple and anybody else. But last week was the new conference, the new I guess releases for the year that Apple went and did, and it kind of sucked. I'm not gonna lie. They're not really doing a lot of stuff. Nothing is really innovative by them anymore, it seems like. So we just kind of want to talk about that today. I feel like the new iPhone release is going to be pretty lame. I feel like the new watch release is just super expensive and it's not really that different. Yeah, I mean, what did you think?
I mean, so I have had like a love-hate relationship with Apple for like a really long time, right? Because like, yes, they used to be the innovators, right? They used to be the people who were like pushing the boundary and like really trying to bring, new things to the market, blah, blah, blah. But you mentioned this a little bit last time. Like, I feel like they have switched over to, instead of like innovating, they are now perfecting, because they are like, their market position is that they are the premium product. They're like the, like the high end of technology now, right? And so they can't innovate as much until they really see like that something has been what's it called, like vetted in the space, right? And I think there's something to that, like, because again, like we talked a little bit last time about like the Vision Pro and like their whole developer process, and it is just so much better than what Meta has currently. Like, they establish rules, they establish guidelines, they establish terminology even. I was looking back at it, and just like their ability to do that goes such a long way in like perfecting the space, because they basically set market standard in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
And so that is like an absolutely needed position in like any market. But at the same time, like, especially for you and I, who are like, we are bleeding edge people, we use tech that's like still in development. We're writing like software that'll probably be used by the next generation, and even all of that, like, it's like, come on, Apple, you've got all these resources and you're just waiting back, so like, I don't know, like seeing some of these new announcements, like at the same time, I'm like, yeah, you're so far behind. Like how did you not have Apple Intelligence or any of your AI stuff 3 years ago when it was just starting? Because they had it, Siri has been a basic form of AI for a long time, but they haven't branded it as such. But at the same time, if you look at it from the perspective of like, Apple will only do something that's been properly vetted, now you can kind of look at it and be like, hey, like, AI and VR is here because Apple finds it worthy of doing something with it, right? That's kind of my 2 cents on it.
So, I mean, I've been using Intellisense or whatever they're calling it for a while now. I upgraded to the developer version of their operating system for my phone. I'm not gonna lie, like, I've noticed some of the features. Are they groundbreaking? No. Siri works better. Like, that's nice. It's nice. Oh, and she just turned on. Shut up, Siri. Like, it works better. She's Irish now. I changed her voice to be Irish. I think that's pretty cool. But other than that, like, the crazy thing is they're saying they built iOS or iPhone 16 from the ground up to use the new Apple Intellisense, and it's not even going to be available when the phone is released. You're going to get your iPhone, 16 without Apple Intelligence in there. Most of the capabilities aren't going to be there yet. This is the first time, I feel like, when they have been teasing a new operating system with a new iPhone release, and it's not going to be ready in time for them to actually roll it out with the new product.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I downloaded it for actually a stupid reason. I got into the new beta software because I wanted to use AI emojis to make whatever the heck I wanted in an emoji. Like, that's the only reason why I did it, and it's not available yet. I haven't been able to do it yet.
That's funny.
And we're on like the 3rd iteration of the beta software, like 3.0 beta, or I guess 0.3. But it's crazy. Like, I don't know. It's the features that they're promising, just like every single AI product that I've seen out there so far hasn't been like used yet. I don't know. Yeah. Like, did you follow the Rabbit one?
Rabbit one. That was the little like companion AI thing that you're supposed to be able to teach it to do basic things. Yeah, I did follow that. Yeah.
So that released with Android operating systems and didn't do anything that they promised. You had the AI Pin, which was another product made by a bunch of Apple people. That released and didn't do anything that it promised. There's the new, what is it, Friend or whatever. If you look at like friend.com, I think is what it's called. It's a little necklace where you can talk to it and it'll send you text messages, which is super dystopian future to me. Like, instead of interacting with your friends in the commercials, they're talking to this little necklace that they have and getting text messages and kind of avoiding talking to their friends. So that's probably not going to release with the functionality that they're promising. And then Apple even is promising all of this AI functionality in their new iPhone, and it's not releasing with the product. I don't know what it is about AI, but it's all been so like such a big letdown in every single release I've seen of AI products so far.
Yeah, so like one of the things with AI is I feel like we are having a really hard time determining what its actual use cases are. Like the things that I use AI for every single day, like I use ChatGPT fairly frequently, right? But I use it in the context of like, especially when I'm making videos, to try to see like the other side. So like one of the most common things that I say to ChatGPT is I say, "Hey, what questions do people have about like XYZ news, right?" And it's really good
Good
about
idea.
being like, "Hey, like people will probably ask like what's the price, what's the like," especially when it comes to video games. Like I'll say, "Hey, like what are people saying about like," I did it recently with the Minecraft trailer. So like Minecraft just released their video trailer for their movie that's coming up, and I asked ChatGPT, I was like, "What are people saying about?" And it's really good about gathering like different news sources and kind of giving you a brief overview of like, here's what people are saying, you know. But that's not necessarily something I need in my phone per se. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? It's not like when I picture AI in like my iPhone, I picture something like Jarvis, where it's basically I am doing the things that I would do on my phone anyway, but
Hmm.
basically through voice commands, you know? And
Yeah.
that's what they tease. Like at least that's what it felt like to me. Is they're saying like, "Oh, hey, you can say send an email to so and so to Siri and it will do so." Or you can say, "Hey, when's my mom's," like the example they gave, which I thought was an interesting one. They said, "When is my mom's flight get in?" And supposedly their AI will be able to go into your inbox, search for flight itineraries, and pull back the data that says, "Hey, the flight leaves at this time and should be landing around this time." That
Yeah.
will be useful if they can actually pull it off, but I just feel like overall people are having a hard time figuring out like what's the actual use case of AI. It's kind of this wild west right now, and I think
Yeah.
surprisingly Apple has kind of fallen subject to it, which usually doesn't happen with them. So
Yeah.
it's kind
I
of
think,
interesting.
I mean, granted, I haven't tried that use case yet. I haven't like asked Siri when my wife was traveling last week. I didn't ask Siri, "Hey, remind me again when she's coming home from her trip." Like, I don't know. It's not intuitive for me yet, and that might be some of the problem. Like one of the things that they're showing is it summarizes your notifications, which is kind of cool, I guess. Instead of showing the preview of your text message, it now summarizes the text message that you receive and shows it to you so that you can
Ah.
see like what the thread is about. I mean, which is cool, whatever. It's not something, I don't know, that's groundbreaking or life changing in all reality. I don't know. That's kind of silly to me, but like I use AI right now a lot too, like you said. I used it this weekend. I was working on a project for a client, and I had a bunch of data that didn't mean anything to me. It was for like closed captioning for a video, and I had to figure out how to get that into a usable type of data.
Hmm.
So I was talking to ChatGPT and said, "Hey, this is the data that I have. These are the inputs. This is the output format that works for me," and kind of gave them 10 lines of an example of it. Can you convert this entire thing? So
Oh, okay.
ChatGPT wrote a Python script that converted everything from the initial input and made it into a usable output for me. Like that kind of stuff is cool. But again, like it's a very specific use case that I'm using for. I'm not getting on to talk to, ChatGPT. Like a
Hmm.
lot of
Yeah.
people do. I get that. Snapchat has AI in it where you can get on and chat with ChatGPT essentially and talk. But I don't know. I'm also like the AI Googles or whatever they're using now, where it basically Googles stuff for you
Oh,
and looks up things and gives you
I have a
results.
really funny story about that actually. So my wife and I just watched Attack on Titan, right?
Okay.
And we Googled like how many seasons are there of Attack on Titan, because we were like we had stayed up till like 2 a.m. one night binging the show because it was so good. And so we Googled, hey, like how many seasons are there of Attack on Titan? And the stupid AI thing that pops up at the top of the search bar ruined the whole show for us because it basically told us what the ending is. It was basically like, there's only this many seasons because at the end of this season, so and so dies. And I'm like, you just spoil the entire show for me because your stupid AI decided to summarize the last season for me, you know?
That's crazy.
And like in that moment, I realized like the danger that those like summary things kind of pose in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And also, they can just be straight up wrong. Like even
Yeah.
I Like that's scary to me. That especially like I've been wondering with like the Google side of things, like they make their money off of advertising. And if you have a
Mm-hmm.
summary AI bot, how are they going to make money? And the only thing that I can think of, and it's kind of a like a dark theory, is they're going to start training their AI model to do what people pay it to say. Like if you say, "Hey, recommend me XYZ supplement," whoever pays the most, that's what the AI model is going to spit back out at you. I don't that's scary. That's like a scary thing I just truly hope does not come to pass. Like that is no thank you.
And I mean, as well, like with the whole paying thing, I mean, you'll have to pay to probably use the best ones. That's probably something, but you're right. Like the companies that are paying the most will get the recommendations. I feel like is definitely, but then your data, which they're already doing anyway. But when you get into these situations where you feel like you're talking to like another intelligence, I feel like people tend to get more vulnerable with AI than they do with Google, which is really, I don't know,
It's a bit scary.
uncomfortable. Yeah.
It
And then they'll be
feels more
selling something
human.
you're more
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be more integrated into your life than Google is, you know? So I don't know. It's all really scary. There are so many pros to AI,
For
right?
sure.
There's so many good things about it, but at the same time, there's no education on how to use it the right way right now. Like there's some pretty
Nor is there good
scary things that are
guidelines.
happening.
Yeah, nor are there like very like I appreciate people like OpenAI who have like at least tried to create guidelines where it's like, okay, like we're not gonna let it do this at very least, right? But this is kind of funny. Loom VR from chat is saying that when Google AI was new, it would tell people that John Backflip invented the backflip. That's awesome. I love that so
I saw
much.
Arkin said, I've been looking for a VR job and have used AI to do a mock interview. Like, that's really cool. Like, that kind of stuff is so powerful and awesome. Like, role playing when it comes to that kind of stuff. There's a lot of great use cases, but I worry about, like, kids getting on Snapchat and just talking to AI. Like, that's not, I don't think that's healthy, you know? Just having somebody sit there and talk to a model that's been trained off of who knows what data for real. And like bias, people say that AI can't be biased, but AI is so biased because
That's
of the data that they're giving to it.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like yeah, the data will create biases based off of what biases the data has. So like if you
Yeah.
train if you like this is the other thing that drives me crazy about AI is a lot of people like they throw out the term AI and they don't actually know what they're talking about. Like there's several different versions of AI. There's machine learning
Yeah.
models which basically learn based off of actions, right? So like if you in Unity has a really awesome project where you can use machine learning to teach an NPC how to drive. And basically what it does is you shoot off a car and if it hits a wall, that's a fail state. And you basically say success state is not to hit a wall. So it'll try again, and if it hits a wall, it now learns. It's like, okay, if I do this and this, I will get a fail state. So it tries again, and it tries over and over and over again until the point where it can be like, this is success state. I successfully did all the things. That's called machine learning,
Cool.
right? Then there's also what's called language learning models, where you try to detect patterns in existing data in order to like recreate like if you so the perfect example I like to give people is like if you take a book of math that just has letters in it, right? And you ask and you train a machine learning model on this, not machine learning, a language learning model on this, it will come back and tell you if you ask it 4 plus 4 equals 8 because it probably at some point saw in several different locations the term 4 plus 4 equals 8, right? That doesn't mean that the AI can actually do math. It's actually kind of interesting. That's one of the ways they test how powerful AI models are by asking it questions it shouldn't know and see how close it gets to the actual answer. But language learning model looks at existing data, finds patterns that it can see, and then when you ask it something, it does its best to find similar patterns to give that back to you, right? So, but people are just throwing out, oh, AI, and it's like, well, what are you talking about? Like, what exactly are we getting at here? You know, anyway.
Yeah, I've used AI machine learning, I guess specifically in a couple projects for augmented reality, and it's very helpful. But you're right, like there's so many different types, and one of the funniest things that you can do is just ask ChatGPT how many R's are in strawberry. That's one of the ones I've seen a lot lately. It cannot figure out that there are 3 R's because there are 2 R's next to each other.
That's funny.
It always says that there are 2 R's inside of strawberry, and it can't, like, even if you try and tell it that it's wrong, it will just continue to tell you, oh, I updated, and now I can tell you that there are 2 R's inside of strawberry. It's like, no, you just did, and that's wrong.
That's
it's like its own little loop that it runs through. It's pretty funny.
I've
seen a lot of examples of that recently.
Yeah, I mean, like, so the funny thing to me about Apple joining, like, the AI revolution is I was genuinely surprised when they didn't rebrand it. Like, do you remember when they announced the Vision Pro? They, like, would not say virtual reality or metaverse. Like, there were 2 terms in their whole,
or mixed reality.
Yeah, they would not say it. They kept saying spatial computing. Spatial computing. Like, they created their own term for what's happening and, like, basically went with that because they refused to be... And frankly, I agree with them. Like, the VR term was very much degraded by some of the things that have happened in the industry. Same with, like, metaverse. Like, I totally agree that was probably a smart move to do. But when it came to, like, AI, they're perfectly willing to be like, yeah, AI. Like, Apple Intelligence, AI, machine learning. Like, they use the terms. And that was kind of surprising to me to see that. Because to me, it kind of indicated that they're like, this is actually the good. Like, the state of this is good enough for our marketing. You know? Like, I don't know. Is that weird at all to you that they were willing to be like, that's okay?
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, they're calling it, like, Intellisense or something, right? Is that... Am I wrong?
Yeah, it's like Apple
It's like a little bit of a
Intellisense.
rebrand. I understand metaverse. Like, you can't use metaverse anymore. It's weird to me that they used like computer vision. Is that what it was? For
spatial computing?
Spatial computing.
Spatial computing.
It makes sense. It's basically just mixed reality. But again, like, those terms aren't solidified yet for a lot of people. I just made a YouTube video today and posted it talking about the difference between augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, all those different things. And I kind of said, like, mixed reality wasn't really a term until this year.
Yeah.
I feel like it was something that was thrown around a lot, but nobody really knew what it was. It wasn't really established well in the industry. And now it means the hybrid of augmented and virtual reality, or sorry, augmented reality and augmented virtuality. I don't know if you knew that was a thing too. Augmented virtuality. But it's kind of anything that's not reality or not virtual reality. It kind of mixed reality falls in there. So it's an umbrella term, but people are using it a lot more now. I don't know. So spatial computing and, like, all the stuff that Apple's doing, it makes sense to define a term because nobody really used the term that it encompasses right now. It's kind of confusing. And I think that, going with metaverse would have been wrong because everybody will associate that with meta from now on.
Right.
I think not using mixed reality was probably good. It really defines them as an expert in the industry and in the XR space because they have this term and a lot of people are starting to pick it up and use it more. But I don't know. It's confusing. Yeah, I don't know. Apple does their own thing their own way, and for some reason it just seems to work.
Yeah, no. So it's funny though that you say that because, like, I remember one of the things that the PhD doctor we both worked for, he drilled into our heads that, like, mixed reality is the encompassing term of all things. So, like, I feel like we have both known that for years. Right? Like, I feel like that was one of the first things that he taught us in that mixed reality lab. And we called it the mixed reality lab because we didn't just deal with virtual reality. We dealt with both augmented reality and virtual reality, and mixed reality is the blanket term. Like, it is interesting to watch the terminology catch up to that kind of stuff.
What? And change. He hated extended reality. He hated XR.
I didn't like that one as well.
Yeah, but now that's the term that encompasses augmented and virtual reality. Mixed reality is augmented reality and augmented virtuality, which are different things. So it kind of has jumped, and XR is kind of the umbrella term now. It's look up the augmented or the reality virtuality continuum. That's kind of what I talked about in my last YouTube video, and that
Okay.
encompasses all of reality and all of virtual reality. And it kind of
Okay.
bridges the gap between everything. So that's kind
Interesting.
of the new standard, and it's very confusing even for people in industry.
I like yeah. Industry standards, man. That's a whole freaking thing. That's a whole freaking thing. Oh, well, okay. So moving on with Apple a little bit. Um, I was sharing with you as we were kind of talking about what we want to talk about in this podcast over this
Yeah.
last week. I shared with you a couple of interesting acquisitions on Apple's side of things. Couple of mixed
Yeah.
reality. Did you look into those at all to find anything interesting with that?
Yeah, a little bit for sure.
So one of the ones that's most interesting to me is there's two companies that they just acquired. There's one called Mira, which is a augmented reality, specifically augmented reality glasses that it's supposed to. Oh my gosh, the zoom on this camera, dude. Here's AI at work right now. There we go. Golly Christmas.
Here, let me explain something really fast. The L in chat is asking some questions about terms. And I did just make a video about this, so if you want a better in-depth view at it, I'm also making shorts about it. But jump
Link to
over to
his
my
channel
YouTube
is in the
after
description,
this.
guys. Go check it out.
Yeah, I kind of describe it all, but a really, really fast overview of everything. So you have real reality, which is the world that we live in, right? You have augmented reality, which is taking the world that we live in and using something like a phone or a headset to overlay digital content on top of it. So that's augmented reality. You have augmented virtuality, which is when you have a completely digital environment and you overlay some type of real world content in front of it. So it's kind of the opposite of augmented reality, whereas augmented reality is using the real world as the setting and placing digital stuff on top. Augmented virtuality is using a virtual environment and then placing real world stuff on top. And then virtual reality is when you have something that's a purely virtual environment. So augmented reality, a good example is like Pokemon Go, where you have the little Pokemon like running around in the real world in front of you. And then virtual reality would be when you're wearing a VR headset and you have a purely virtual environment that you're interacting with. So it kind of is a process step by step to replacing more of the world around you with virtual content. And you start with reality with no digital content, then augmented reality with mostly real world content and some digital content, augmented virtuality, which is mostly digital content but some real world content as well, and then virtual reality where everything is purely digital. So that's kind of the different terms, just so people are up to date with that.
Yeah. So I think that'll be probably important as we're going forward because we're gonna talk. I want to talk a lot about like the VR and AR stuff that Apple has acquired recently because that's like the most interesting to me. Because I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the Vision Pro when they did like VR announcement. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, so one of the acquisitions they made. So they acquired a company called Mira recently, which builds augmented reality headsets. Right? It has really interesting patented technology that like basically projects screens onto a lens that's also see through, so that you have this really interesting, like Declan was saying, seeing real world things, but also within seeing virtual things in a real world, right? But even longer ago than that, they acquired a company called, I believe it was called North Lenses. I might be
Okay.
mistaken on this. I was trying to look into this a little more, but I couldn't find it. So North Lenses was really interesting to me because they were very simple glasses, like something like you would see like this, basically, right? A little bit thicker on the sides, but they had a heads-up display, tiny projector that would display it onto the lenses, like basically when you got notifications, like very very simple, like heads-up display type stuff. And I
The
was
Google
thinking for the
Glass.
yeah, like a Google Glass type thing for sure. And I was thinking for the longest time that when Apple finally joined the space, they would build something like that, like almost a companion app to get you to go to your phone because they weren't ready to like jump into a full-on like virtual reality headset, and yet they did. They built a very capable mixed
Yeah.
reality headset, And so now I'm kind of wondering if like their next iteration is they're going to have the mixed reality headset, and then they'll have something like these North glasses where it's basically something akin to like the Apple Watch, right? Like the Apple Watch is basically a mini version of your phone to get you to look at your phone
Yeah.
without having to pull your phone out of your pocket. I feel like glasses would be an equally viable option for something like that, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. And it's interesting. There's actually an industry for it. Augmented reality glasses are expensive. To get an augmented reality image in the current way that augmented reality glasses work, you have 3 panes of glass that are overlaid on top of each other, and then you have lasers that shoot into the panes of glass that create colors. Um, so the colors create like a hologram in a transparent lens, and that sits on anchors that are virtual in the world in front of you. Kind of confusing, but it's very technical and difficult to execute. There are a lot of things that affect augmented reality glasses and like the way that you can see things in augmented reality. Like if you're in the sun, because the sun is very strong, it kind of makes it so it's really hard to see what is on your transparent lens. So that's just one of the downsides. They also don't have a good field of view. So like you can really only see maybe like 6 feet left and right in front of you with actual augmented content on there. Everything else is just a transparent lens. But yeah, I think mixed reality right now for me is the better product. I guess we could explain what they do. They basically you have your tracking on your cameras on your VR headset. So if you have an Oculus Quest, it has those little cameras in front. Instead of yeah, Garrett has one right there. Perfect. So those cameras take a live feed of what's in front of you and then play what is on the feed on lenses inside of the glasses. So you're not actually seeing through anything, but it has a low latency live camera feed being shown in front of your eyes, so it looks like you're looking into the real world in front of you, and then it overlays digital content on top of that. That's what mixed reality headsets are. But yeah, I think those are more affordable and easier to produce right now and more usable for the majority of people. I say that, but like today at the Snap Fest that's going on with Snapchat, they just announced their new Snap Lenses version 5. You can actually buy a new today, you can order it, and tomorrow they're shipping out the new Snap Lenses, which is crazy to me that they're doing that. It's another pair of basically glasses that has a lens on there that you can use augmented reality on to see the world in front of you. So the L, that was augmented reality. That's what we're using with the Snap Lenses. But yeah, it's super interesting that people are actually working on that technology more. I thought it was something that wasn't going to be as popular over the next couple years. People are still doing a lot of research into it.
So, but here's kind of my question, like kind of looking towards the future, thinking of like what is practically reality, right? Do you think like the final form factor of all technology is like the glasses? Because that's kind of what I've seen a lot of people say is like everyone keeps saying like eventually your phone, all of your devices will be like you just put on your glasses, you know, and
Yep.
it's like all right there. Do you think that's the actual final form factor, or do you think stuff like Neurolink will overtake that and having it just injected straight into your brain? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Like,
It's
which
hard
way
to
is it going to
say.
go?
So I've seen people say augmented reality will replace your phone and virtual reality will replace your computer.
I can agree with that.
There are two different spaces that they kind of exist inside of. Your mobile phone is for your day-to-day use. You use it while you're outside. You use it for navigation. It's kind of like your go-to thing. But then your computer, when you sit down to use your computer, you're usually diving into software and doing like more specific things, whether that's gaming or like working on projects on your computer. It's more of a you can replace that with a virtual thing and probably be more efficient. So Neuralink, I would imagine, I would hope that it would only replace the virtual component and like the computer component of the world that we live in. I'm not ready for that yet. That's scary stuff.
Yeah.
Chats, there are a lot of people that are opposed to the idea, it looks like, of neural linking right now. Like the L said, it's amazing for people who have lost use of limbs, and like it can do amazing things. But for somebody who doesn't have any problems, it's scary to think that they'd be more likely to enjoy their lives inside of a simulation than it would be for them to enjoy their real lives outside. It's crazy. I don't know. It's an interesting concept still to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree that there's some really cool stuff with like people who have lost limbs or like I saw one where a guy, he was paraplegic and to the point where he couldn't talk, and when they put in Neurolink he was able to type on a computer fast enough to like have regular conversation. And so I definitely think that's like really interesting for sure. But yeah, like at the same time, I almost feel like it'll be kind of like not to bring up anything like political or anything, but kind of when there was the vaccination things, like there are people who are very against it, and there are people who are like, we should do this, right? Yeah. I feel like it'll be one of those things where there's room for these brain computer interfaces. That's what they're called, BCIs, like Neuralink. But I think there will also be people who forever are like, I'm computer free. I'm not going to get anything to augment my personal self. I'm just going to wear glasses. But I think I agree with that. I do believe that AR will be what replaces phones eventually. Mm-hmm. And that VR for replacing your computer is interesting in theory. I'm not sure how much I subscribe to that though, because I personally think that computers are going to go to the cloud and that you're not going to need to buy expensive anything other than internet connection. Which
for sure, but you'll still need a medium to interact with the cloud, and I think that's true. Virtual reality will give you that medium to interact with it. You won't need all the hardware capabilities, but you'll be able to connect to the cloud using a VR headset.
Loom VR was saying if you get hacked with Neuralink, you're cooked. For real though, that's scary. Did you ever see what's his name, Gabe Newell, the owner of Valve? Did you ever see what he said about like BCIs?
Dude, he's freaking crazy.
Dude, that guy, he literally oh my gosh, in an interview they're like, so like writing to the brain, that means like hypothetically you could like fry the brain, and he was just like, yeah, you'll see people running off in the woods and they'll be like, yeah, that was Jerry, he got brain fried, and he's just like accepted like the vulnerability. I'm like, dudes, we can't have that. No
that makes me think of Cyberpunk. Super hardcore. A Cyberpunk like blowing up and going crazy, dude. Have you seen Uploaded? I think it's on Amazon Prime. I don't know if we talked about this last week, but it's a TV show that's basically like a comedy about the real world, what it could be, where instead of dying, you can choose to be uploaded, and you go into this machine and it essentially cuts off your head and then uploads all of your brain data into a computer, and you can live forever inside of a heaven that is like you can pay for more memory inside of heaven so that you can have like whatever you want, and the people that are poor can't live in the cool heaven, they have to live in a crappy heaven somewhere. And like it's hilarious. It's made me laugh so much.
Sword Art Online in real life, gosh, that's what Space Kids is saying from TikTok.
It reminds me of a lot of this like link stuff that we're talking about. Like imagine just downloading somebody's entire brain and entire consciousness and putting it into some sort of virtual world where they can exist forever. Like you could visit them in virtual reality. I don't know. It's hilarious, the show, but if you really dive into like the psychology of it all and where we are going, like me being in the industry, it makes me laugh because it's like I could actually see people doing that kind of stuff, and it's terrifying.
Dude, being on like the VC side of things where people are trying to get funding, this is the kind of idea that someone would be like, give me $1 million and I'll figure it out. It's like, like, oh my gosh, crappy heaven, Loom VR is calling it. That's hilarious.
If you want to see, I saw something about the brain chips again. The first guy who ever got the brain chip put in did an interview on Joe Rogan. So the first Neuralink patient he did a 3-hour podcast on there. So it's pretty cool to go in and hear like what it's like using it. But
that's super interesting. I want to talk a little more about like cloud stuff, because like I think I told you this last time. I am a subscriber to Xbox Cloud Gaming tier on the Xbox Game Pass. Okay, and I can play Xbox games, their entire Game Pass library, from the cloud on any device, which has been one of the craziest things. And like, honest and truly, it's a fantastic experience. The latency is barely noticeable. Like, I play Battlefield 1 like all the time on it because that's one of the greater games that they have on Game Pass, and I truly don't notice like much of a like latency. Like, it's there, it's kind of noticeable, but for what it is, like, that's a lot of fun. And the fact that I can play it on my phone is kind of crazy, like the accessibility of that. And like, I personally have noticed that, like, I feel like Xbox in particular, they're really going for that. Like, they're really going for like accessibility over that. But like, going back to like cloud computing and whatnot, just having basically hardware you can connect to through the internet. That's what I'm saying when I'm saying cloud computing, is it's basically, instead of having a PC here, you would pay to rent computing time like in the cloud or on a server bank somewhere, and you just connect to it via the internet. Like, do you think that's how things will go? Like, do you think things will go more and more to the cloud? Or
I think so. I think there are a lot of infrastructural problems in the United States that need to be solved. We always consider ourselves to be, at the forefront of technology, but our internet infrastructure, for the most part, is built off of copper wires that were put in the ground in the 1950s to run telephone wires. It's a very poor system. And like, I lived in Utah before. There's a lot of Google Fiber out there. Like, there's a lot of fiber networks that are all over Utah County now. But I live in Texas now, and the internet out here is so bad.
Really?
So like, anything that's cloud computing is scary to me because it takes like, I had like 1,000 up, 1,000 down in Utah, and down here I'm like struggling to get 15 up, 15 down. Like, it is significantly worse. And my parents are limited in what they can have. I think they have to use Xfinity. It's just, there has to be an infrastructural change, or we have to go to edge computing with like digital, fully remote satellite stuff. With like Verizon, they have their edge computing, where like, instead of being super deep in space, the satellite sits really, really close to the atmosphere, and that's where we're getting our internet signal from, is from satellites that are really, really close. That's a lot faster because the signal doesn't have to travel as far, but it's more costly. It's more dangerous for the satellites. They can get destroyed a lot easier because they're really close to the atmosphere.
Right.
It's a huge thing that they're trying to figure out. But I don't know. There has to be changes to the internet for cloud computing to really work. Like, I love the idea of it. I remember when Google Stadia was announced, I thought that was the future of gaming, and it tanked,
So
it did so bad.
I actually got to talk to one of the devs of Google Stadia, and I asked him straight up. We were at a lunch together in San Francisco, and I asked him straight up. I was like, why did Stadia fail? And he told me, he's like, first and foremost, that was the most impressive thing I have ever worked on. And this guy has worked on like a ton of cool crap he was telling me about. But he was like, look, had this worked, we would have had new video games that would have literally been like 5,000 players versus 5,000 players in real time.
Dude, that is so dope.
It would have been insane. And what he kind of told me is, he's like, there's a couple of reasons I don't think it worked. Like, number one, they went the route of like porting games. Like, the things they advertise is they're like, Doom Eternal will be on here. But the problem is that you could 1-to-1 Doom Eternal on like your PC to Doom Eternal on Stadia. And at that like comparison rate, you notice that Doom Eternal on Stadia has a bit of latency. It's not as responsive because it has to go to space and back, Like, but so he was saying like they took the wrong approach. He said every console in history has had an exclusive title at launch that shows off the capabilities of the console. And he was like, Stadia just straight up didn't have that. Had they built some incredible MMO or whatever that showed off the capability of people being able to have these giant fights in real time with real players, like, that would have done way, way better. But he said that was like the marketing strategy, was to approach existing IP. He thinks they should have started from the ground up, funded indie studios, and just like created unique IP for Stadia. And then the other thing he said is he said the executives at Google were not ready for the fight that is starting a console. He was saying that, you know, throughout history, every single console has gone through this fight where they go probably 5 to 10 years without being profitable because they just have to keep like advertising, they have to keep creating stuff, they have to be able to show that it's a viable product. And Stadia was canceled like within a year of when it was first launched or whatever. We didn't give it enough time to mature, and the executives at Google, again, this is just kind of me repeating what I heard from this guy, but I found that kind of fascinating that it was more of a marketing error and an executive error than anything else, you know? But
yeah, for sure. I think having something at launch that was unique to Stadia would have been cool. I get why they did what they did. It's hard to convince people to do something like that. And like the whole idea of cloud gaming was so new. I wouldn't go join Stadia because I could play some brand new title, if I'm being honest with you. I would have joined, and I did join Stadia. I had Stadia. I tried it. I joined Stadia because I wanted to play console and computer video games on my mobile phone while I'm traveling. And it just didn't work. There was latency and a lot. I'm sure it's significantly better now, but when I did it, it was pretty bad. I couldn't play any really good technical video games that are like fun. I couldn't play platformers. I couldn't do anything because there was so much latency, and I would lose. It was over.
Yeah, you need that. Like a lot of those games rely on like rapid response mechanics. Yeah. And if you have even small amounts of latency, yeah. No, it's been interesting following the cloud gaming tier, because I initially bought it. I was like, I'll see what it's like, and then I'll go back down. But Xbox's cloud gaming has genuinely surprised me because, like, I have this whole catalog of Game Pass games that I can play on it, right? Which is very appealing. It's like I now have access to all these games. But then on top of that, the games that I do play, as long as I have a decent internet connection, like they play well, you know?
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to follow like cloud gaming. I was kind of surprised. So Meta, there was a lot of little startup companies like a couple of years back that were trying to do cloud computing on the Meta Quest to allow people to be able to play PC VR games on the Meta Quest. And there was a couple of companies that did it well. There was you could basically VPN into a computer and with a little bit of latency play PC VR games, because you're basically getting like all of the compute power that their machines had and getting it onto like your device. But Meta put a hard stop to all of that.
Really?
They just decided that was against their TOS for whatever reason, and just was like, nope, like that cannot happen. They shut down every single app that was possible on. And I remember thinking at the time, because they had done this prior, that they were going to launch their own cloud gaming like functionality or whatever, but then they never did. Like, you know, they had shut down like a fitness app only to build their own. Like they didn't shut down Virtual Desktop, but they produced their own version of Virtual Desktop in Neurolink. You know, it's just like I was thinking, oh, they're gonna produce their own cloud gaming, because that's a perfect, like, it's a subscription based model. You can get hardware. It's data rich, so like surely Oculus would love to have that now that they're owned by Meta. You know, and they never did, and that was very, very surprising to me that they didn't try to do something like that after shutting down all the companies who were doing that. You know what I mean? That's kind of an interesting thing I just remembered.
I think there are a couple people in the chat that are confused about what Stadia is, so we can run over that real fast.
Oh yeah,
I guess what it was.
Yeah. Here, I'll take this one. So Stadia basically was Google's. They call it like the Google gaming console. What it was is, instead of buying like an entire console, you bought a controller, a Wi-Fi enabled controller, and basically the idea is that this controller would connect to Wi-Fi, and then on any tablet, any phone, any TV, you would be able to pull up Stadia and you would be able to play games just through the internet. And your controller was connected to Wi-Fi, connected to the internet, and you would be able to play these games on any device, anywhere. and they had all these crazy applications. But the cool thing about this console, guys, is it's what's called it was called server-based architecture, which basically means that the servers themselves and the hardware was the compute limiting factor, meaning that as many people as they could get to connect to these servers was as many people as they could put into games. So I was saying before, they could get like 500 plus people into games to be able to play. That was kind of like the unique computing structure that they had come up with. But it failed very, very quickly. I feel like they shut it down like within a year or so after announcing it. And like it never got to see the light of day, but it was extremely powerful new like gaming console essentially that used a new architecture that would have allowed for much, much bigger multiplayer games. And just it's really sad that it never got to see the light of day.
Yeah. And
did I miss anything?
I guess no, I think you're good. I would just think of like Netflix, like you're live streaming a TV show. You don't have to have any of the physical hardware there. It's basically a video game where you're just live streaming it. Like you send your inputs back to the server and then it live stream those changes. So it's basically, yeah, you're playing a game without any hardware. You're playing a game just purely digitally and it's live streaming to where you are. Yeah. Like it sounds awesome. I remember, yeah, when Stadia's announcement came out, I shared all over social media saying like, hey, this is the future of gaming. This is going to shake up one of the biggest industries in the world. And it didn't. No. And I was so surprised that it didn't work. But again, I think there's just so many infrastructural issues in the United States that I don't know. A lot of people just don't have good enough internet for it to be usable. Like, I've tried doing some of the PlayStation live streaming stuff before. They don't have anything cool that's like cloud computing, but you can play a game from your mobile phone and play it on your own PlayStation, which is an interesting thing. But I tried doing that as soon as I got a PlayStation 5. I had 1,000 up, 1,000 down internet connection on my PlayStation, Ethernet cabled into my router. And I was trying to play a video game from my in-laws' house, and it was unplayable because there was so much latency. Like, and it might have just been because the internet at their house was bad, but I could never really get it to work enough to a way where I felt like I could play cool games. Like, sure, I ended up playing turn-based RPGs, which were fine because you don't have to have any quick actions or movements or anything. But I was very limited into what I could play. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's not what we want when it comes to cloud gaming. Yeah, like
for sure.
I feel like the dream is exactly what you were saying before. Is it's like all the greatness of gaming without the hardware, like the accessibility of anywhere without having to drag along the hardware. Like
and do you think it'll ever happen?
I do. Actually, I truly do. So the infrastructure problem, I have Starlink, and actually you should look into it because it's fantastic. It is great internet speeds, extremely reliable, and you can get it flipping anywhere, right? Like it is fantastic. And it kind of surpasses this infrastructure problem because they're like, basically Elon Musk decided, the infrastructure is so fried, let's just go to space. And it's awesome. Like I did a live stream from a lake in the middle of nowhere, and like it went pretty successfully. There was a couple of hitches. It's a Garett the Gamer live stream. Can't not expect it, right? But like I've been testing it out in a lot of places. I have my wife's uncle's my wife's uncle just used it at a baseball tournament to live stream his child's tournament on YouTube. And he was like, that's like better Wi-Fi connection than I get at home, you know? So I think the infrastructure problem will be solved by just going straight to space, personally. I think that's just going to be the better option. Because like you said, the infrastructure that we have set up right now, it's just like the amount of resources it'll take to reinstall that and whatnot.
For sure.
Not worth it. Whereas launching satellites into space is getting cheaper and cheaper with the innovations that they're coming up with, right? So I think the infrastructure problem will be solved sooner than later. And then again, like I've been able to do cloud gaming now. That's like really good. So combine that with like a really good infrastructure. Yeah, I think like obviously that's what Xbox is going towards because they they just announced that they're going to put Xbox Game Pass on the Fire Stick so that any TV now becomes an Xbox basically. So
Yeah.
I really think that like Microsoft is pushing in that direction. There's a couple of games. I heard that Genshin Impact, you can play it on your phone, but it actually utilizes a ton of cloud gaming features
Really? I
in
didn't know
order
that.
to provide the same experience that you would get on any other device. So I think a lot of big game developers as well have been figuring out stuff like that. And like if game developers are figuring out how to use it, the rest of the world will figure out how to use it as well. Like that's
Yeah.
just, I feel like game developers are kind of good at running the gauntlet with new things, you know. So
Yeah. I think so I did look it up. Starlink is edge computing. So that's like a good understanding. You can see
Perfect.
the satellites because they're so low. But I I don't know, man. It's interesting the idea of it. And I know like PC gamers will probably still exist,
for sure.
but the fact that people wouldn't have to upgrade their hardware every couple years, I feel like that would cost big businesses so much money. And that's one of the things that makes me worried. Like Nvidia could just buy a cloud computing company and then shut it down because then they wouldn't get the people buying all of their expensive hardware every single year. Like you could say that's like a very conspiracy theory thing of me, but I have a hard time believing that a lot of these big hardware companies will not, I don't know, get mad at people that are creating these edge and like cloud computing things going on. I don't know.
See, I would say that if I wasn't aware of how much enterprise pricing is, right?
Gotcha.
Hardware selling to direct to consumer is hard because there's so many different needs and niches and whatnot. Whereas you approach one cloud computing company and they say, I need 5,000 GPUs and we'll pay this price for it. You now have a, like a $50 million order rather than spending 20 million on advertising and then 10 billion on actually profit, right? So
do you think a lot of those big companies will transition and pivot their businesses to do more of like the networking side of things?
that is an interesting question because like Starlink is kind of the one consumer aimed networking solution that we have right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
But again, it feels like it would be too crowded, like especially like with just like there's so much space junk already. I would be curious if people would like try to go for the networking thing. I mean, some people are like, you were talking about the fiber that's in Utah. It's Google Fiber, right? So clearly some people are attacking the like the infrastructure problems in certain ways. I would be curious to see like who goes for what, because it looks like Google is going for like fiber optic cables. Obviously, you have Starlink, which is an Elon Musk company. I don't know. That's interesting, but I like, especially after seeing Xbox pivot into cloud gaming super hard. It would not surprise me to see more and more people like bringing it back to Apple. Apple's one of their big things that they've talked about with this Intellisense has been the safe cloud computing, that they have it encrypted, which is like a really interesting architecture thing. I'd love to talk to someone who knows about it more. But they are saying that like they can do cloud computing but completely private because of some crazy encryption algorithm they have, which is so interesting. So even Apple is starting to go that direction with things, right? So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I do think that kind of everyone is going that direction because it's so accessible. We talked a little bit last time about like third world countries and that they're not able to get like PCs and consoles like we do. But if there was a cloud gaming option with good internet to third world countries, suddenly you have a much more accessible player base.
Yeah.
I don't know, just thoughts.
No, I agree. I think that's really cool. And I mean, we did kind of jump everywhere today. We started with Apple, and is Kermit the Frog on Twitch said something about the AirPods. Did you see any of the updates for those?
I did not see the updates, but I do love AirPods. They are great.
I have the Maxes, and they did an updated AirPod Max, and they just added new colors and didn't update any of the chips in it at all. Whoopee. So it's exactly the same.
Okay.
The new AirPod like noise cancellation is interesting. I don't know. I feel like they're just not adding a ton to a lot of different things. I feel like all of the announcements that were made were pretty minuscule. Yeah, I got these guys right here.
Yeah, yeah.
These are my daily drivers for work.
We should. Oh gosh, you got like the pros.
Oh yeah, the
Goodness.
Maxes, man.
So, okay, this is kind of an interesting thing to talk about when it comes to Apple. I call it the iChurch, right? Because Apple has an ecosystem where everything works so seamlessly together, right? Like I remember when I popped these things open, you literally flip open the case and bada bing bada boom, it sets up on your phone like within like 3 steps. You know, and I think that's like one of the very unique value propositions that Apple has is just the fact that they can like they just like you join their ecosystem and everything works so seamlessly together, you know? Like I do a lot of my video editing on an iPad and it's so nice because like today I was trying to make the thumbnail for this podcast and I had sent you the logo for the podcast and I jumped on my iPad and because it has messages which syncs to my messages on my phone, I grabbed the logo, threw it into my editing software and bada bing bada boom, like we had it, right? Like that system that they have is so nice that it's so connected, but at the same time it's so bad because they monopolize it. They know they don't have to play nice with everyone. I have the Apple credit card and I love it. It's awesome, but I hate it at the same time because they won't let it connect to like any of these like financial apps. Like I use Rocket Money. I use Rocket Money, the app Rocket Money, and they don't let you connect it to Rocket Money to monitor like your transactions and whatnot. And it's like I have my entire financial system in one place except for Apple product. You know? I don't know. The closed ecosystem stuff is like what are your thoughts on that? I don't know.
I mean, you're right. I love the way that it works. It's so interesting because if they transition to what everybody else is using, then there would be monopolies in every industry, right?
Right.
I mean, you have Linux, right? But consumers don't use Linux, and a lot of Linux is free. But if you didn't have OS, then your only alternative right now, really, for an operating system for a computer would be Microsoft Windows. If you didn't have iOS, then you'd really only have Android. Like, I feel like Apple is the only company that's already competing with these monopolies and these closed ecosystems, but they're just bigger.
Yeah.
And they allow different hardware in there, but they don't play a lot well with other like software either. I don't know, it's such a weird thing. And like you can develop for Windows, you can develop for Apple too, but I don't know, I just feel like I don't know if there will ever be a world where the operating systems will play nicely with one another. It's hard. To me, I'm a huge proponent for web. Like, I think that, web is the future of everything, and, like, you'll be able to do everything you want on the web. Even, like, applications and, like, web apps, progressive web apps are already a thing where it doesn't really matter what operating system you're using. You can have a progressive web app that is running on the web. So I don't know. It'll just kind of be the way that you access the web. That's my vision for the future. Everything exists on the web, and all the content is up in a cloud on a server somewhere instead. And kind of the hardware that you're using is just kind of the flavor that you use to access it. But I don't know. That's
interesting.
It's such an interesting thing. I'm an Apple person. I have my Mac. I'm on my Mac right now. I have my iPhone 15. I've got an Apple TV. I push everything through like AirShare or whatever it's called. Like, I never plug anything in anymore. If I have to send somebody a file on a Windows computer, it's just so annoying. I hate dealing with it. I have to like email it to them or get a USB. Like, I haven't used a USB in years because I can just push stuff from one device to another. So like I was editing my YouTube videos. I was just pushing things, recording things on my phone, recording things on my computer, pushing it back and forth. It's instantaneous. So nice. Yeah. And I don't know, that connectivity and that convenience is so valuable to me. I feel like I couldn't do it without it anymore.
Yeah,
be such an extra process.
yeah. So it's kind of funny that you bring that up because, like, thinking about gaming and Apple, like Apple has their Apple Arcade, but it's like a collection of
Mobile games.
mobile games, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's not like a ton that we can do on like Apple Arcade, but like recent years they've been doing a lot of stuff. I've noticed with I feel like Capcom has been their primary, you know. Um,
Okay.
they announced, what was it? It's not Final Destination. Oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the game. Uh, gosh dang it, what is it? It's the one. It's got like 7 things now. It's got the big lady, that everyone, Lady Domitry or whatever.
Oh,
What is that? What is that game?
I know what you're talking about.
Gosh dang it!
Now you said Final Fantasy and
It's not. It's not
freaking.
Final Fantasy. It's not Final Destination. Is it Final? It's not Final
No,
Fantasy.
it's
Guys, chat, help us out. Come on, what is it? It burns. Did you know that 3.7 billion people have never been on the internet? That's interesting. If that's right.
How many people are there in the world?
I think we're at 9 billion now, I want to say.
Dang, that's a lot of people.
That is over half, right? Close to it. 4.5 would be half if it was 9, right?
The game that you're talking about, the name is Village, but I can't remember what.
Yeah, what the freak is it? Gosh dang it. There's there's a port of it.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. There it is. Okay. Wait, is it Resident? Yeah. Yeah, it's Resident Evil. Anyway, so they showed off like Resident Evil 7 running perfectly fine on the newest M4 chip or whatever they have. But using their they call it, what is it called, like bit encoding, where basically they translate it from the Intel processing commands to their M4 processing commands, and it's running really well. But like, no one's gonna buy a Mac for gaming, you know. Like, the only reason I have a PC probably is because I've had to build VR games, and to build a VR game, you have to use a PC. Like, that's the only way to build the Android APK files and push them out to, or like to be able to test them in real time. That's the bigger thing.
Yeah.
Is like, to use Steam VR, you have to have a PC. But so I could see Apple potentially being a big champion of like the cloud computing stuff, because that's the only way they're going to get people to be able to like game on their devices, you know?
Yeah. I tried gaming on I bought a MacBook Pro when I came home and went back to college after being gone for 2 years. And it didn't work, and it pissed me off so much. I freaking was so mad. I bought like a really nice MacBook. It was a MacBook Pro. It was like the best thing that I could get at the time, and it was the worst. Getting on Steam, I had a bunch of games that I purchased on Steam, and I guess I was naive or something back then, but I thought I would be able to use them all, and freaking being limited to Steam games that had access to like Apple. I don't know, it's stupid. It's still crazy to me that people don't build. When they're building in things like Unity, they just don't build for Macs. I don't get it. I feel like it's not that hard anymore to build something for a Mac and put it, but at the same time, I don't know, maybe I'm ignorant. But
it's more on the, so I have built an app for both Android and Apple devices. I had a Unity job in college where we were building an educational app, and we built it for both iOS and for Android. Android's submission process takes you like 20 minutes. You submit an APK, you put in a description, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. To submit something to iOS, first and foremost, you have to build it to Xcode and then rebuild it on Xcode, submit it to their submission thing, sign it, do all these crazy things. There's like this whole like 10-step process that there's like YouTube videos that are 40 minutes long explaining it. And then on top of that, if you do one thing wrong, you are rejected. You get no chance. You're not getting on the store, right? Like, I think the reason why most people avoid building more stuff for Apple is because their dev relationship is not good at all. It was really interesting with that Epic versus Apple. I paid really close attention to that whole Supreme Court case when Epic sued Apple, because a lot of stuff came out about the developer process, because that was kind of like what they're suing them on the grounds of. And like, I'm sure the stat is gonna be completely wrong, but I remember there was one particular quote where they basically said it's like a very significant portion of developers for Apple are not satisfied with the tools and or process that they have to go through in order to do their business.
Wow.
And like the Epic kind of presented that as evidence that Apple is a monopoly. They're not actually paying attention to their developers, and they just do what they want because they can, you know? So that's my
crazy.
2 cents on that whole thing.
Yeah, that's nuts. I mean, I've built for Android and iOS before, building augmented reality apps on Unity, but I've never built for Mac. So I don't know how different that experience is too, you know, building for Windows versus Mac.
I can't imagine it being too different, seeing as infrastructure is probably the same, right? It's an Apple store, it's an app store. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's
but
just so
again, it just comes down to like addressable market space, right? Like, is it worthwhile to build a gaming app for Mac when like Mac is for just kind of the casual everyday consumer? You know what I mean? I don't know. Kind of a crazy one, but
well, I feel like Apple will always have its fanatics, and I might be one of those. Who knows? I had an Android for a while. I had a Galaxy S12 in high school, and it was absolute garbage, and I hated it, and I got rid of it as soon as I could. And the only reason I had it was because I broke my iPhone. So I tried it for a year and got rid of it.
That's funny.
But yeah, I don't know. Apple is such an interesting thing, and with the Apple Vision Pro, like I feel like they're just moving even further into that ecosystem. You know, it all works really well with Apple Vision Pro. Like the newest Vision OS 2 releases that happened this week.
Yep.
I think it was this week.
Yeah.
Just makes it even easier to work with your computer. You can now like look at your computer and connect to it with your Vision Pro, and then immediately it turns off the display on your computer and pulls up the display in virtual reality or augmented reality in front of you. You can have two 4K wide screens essentially.
Yep.
And just be sitting there and it's instantaneous. It's super easy. It just works so well. And like if you're getting the VR for a productivity thing, like there's a no-brainer. Just jump on Apple and you'll have everything that you need. It still uses your computer's processor. You're gonna have all the power that you had before, but you'll have a more convenient way of viewing it. Like how long until you won't even need a monitor to do that kind of stuff inside of Apple? It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. No, I definitely like my strongest use case for Apple Vision Pro right now is exactly that. Like if you need monitors on the go, the Apple Vision Pro is a no-brainer because you can get surround sound quality stuff for, you know, like, okay, Alfredo Chicken just brought up in the chat on Twitch that like it's $3,500, but let's do a little comparison right here. If you were to buy two really nice 4K monitors, at you know even a regular size, plus a super nice surround sound system, plus like also like you could include like a workspace, like and like headphones and everything like that, you're in about the same range as what an Apple Vision Pro costs, right? Like if you were to combine the combined cost of all your peripherals and like compare it to what the Apple Vision Pro is, it's almost comparable. It's still Apple pricing, but it's like I agree with you. I think like the way that Apple is kind of seeing this in the future with the Vision Pro is that this is their peripheral offering where it's all in one. Yeah. You can get monitors, sound system, everything in this nice little user-friendly design.
And I'll die on this hill. I don't think that the Vision Pro is the commercial or the consumer version of the product yet.
It's not.
It's like the new Apple Watch, right? I am never going to buy an Apple Watch Pro. I have zero need for all of that extra crap that they throw into that one, but I'll buy an Apple Watch.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be the same thing when Apple Vision comes out because we know Apple is working on a consumer version of the headset. It will happen eventually, but this is the pro version of the headset. And they're kind of testing out what functionality they want to put inside of the consumer version of the headset. I think it's really smart that they did that way. I would be shocked if you wouldn't be able to do all of this easy like connectivity stuff with just an Apple Vision. You had to have an Apple Vision Pro. I'd be very confused, but I think that they're testing out what is important for consumers in a headset like this. They just have a smaller demographic.
I agree.
And like it wasn't an utter failure because they're releasing it everywhere still. It's still a product that is successful that they're releasing around the globe.
Yep.
Vision OS 2 is really cool. I wanted to say you can now launch WebXR experiences inside of Vision OS 2.
That's huge.
Which is pretty crazy, but yeah, before you had to go in and enable a bunch of experimental settings, and now it works natively. So that's a big thing for my side of the industry. But yeah, I don't know. I think people see the Apple Vision Pro and see how expensive it is and see how many units they've sold and think that it's a failure. But I think Apple was kind of expecting that to happen.
They've done this before. Yeah. Do you remember the iPhone X that was the first iPhone that was $1,000, and it was because it was packed with so much extra tech. And Apple is so good at this. I love talking about this because Apple is so good at new products because they do exactly this. They make a super expensive product that only the fanatics will buy, right? They pack it full of as many things as they can possibly think of would be applicable to the general public. Then what happens is the fanatics buy it and use it, and the developers buy it and use it. And basically, they collect data on how is this actually used? What pieces of hardware is actually being used, right? And after the iPhone X, we got the iPhone 11 and iPhone 12, which I think I have a 12 still. And one of the things I remember in particular is the iPhone, I think it was the X was the first one to have the RFID reader. And now that is commonplace across all phones. You have to RFID for tap to pay and stuff like that. That's what they did. They realized, okay, we don't necessarily need LiDAR on every single camera, on every single thing we have. So we'll get rid of that. But RFID, that was used really hardcore. So yeah, I would not be surprised if in the next year we get the Apple Vision 2 or the Apple Vision Lite. And it's a much more consumer oriented one where it's that will be the one that starts to get everyone into MR and whatnot, because that will be the one that has all the data that they've used for it. This could be great. Anyway.
Yeah, I think, with the Vision Pro, it's going to be interesting. I think we will see, and VR Rat brings up a good point. Do we need computers everywhere we go? We have them. People use computers all the time.
Your phone is a computer. You use a computer all the time. Whether you like it or not, any kind of thing that requires computing processing is a computer. And so we do have computers everywhere we go.
I would say as a society right now, if we turned off all the computers, if we didn't have computers with us everywhere, I wouldn't be able to drive anywhere. First off, I wouldn't be able to get anywhere.
No.
We depend so much on computers and all of the technology nowadays. VR and AR are both interesting advancements, and we can kind of end here if we want. I just think that right now we have phones which close us off from people a lot in the world around us, but when we start getting into technology like augmented reality that begins to use the world that we're in and interact with it in a new way, I think that we'll be opening back up to more interactivity with other people again.
For sure.
Just because we'll be more immersed in the world and we won't be closing ourselves off. So I don't know. I feel like it's a good advancement that could happen in the future. And I think that people will use it, but there's also going to be bad uses for it too. I don't want to be driving around and see a pop-up for freaking McDonald's as I'm driving down the interstate on my headset, So there's a lot of problems that need to be solved, and I think that's one of the reasons why both of us are in the industry, is because we want to be the ones that fix those problems and come up with the good solutions.
Absolutely. I definitely think that, it's going to be people that are on the edge case that, who have a conscience, who aren't just money driven, who are going to be the people that stop for a second and say, hey, we need to make sure this doesn't keep happening like this,
Yeah.
Well, that is all the time we have for today, boys and girls. So, any last questions for us here at the Practically Reality Podcast? We are now podcast, guys. Wanted to remind you guys of that. We are on Spotify. Look us up, Practically Reality Pod. This is episode 2, guys, of our podcast. We're gonna keep doing this every Tuesday at what time did we start? 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
2 p.m.
2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. That's 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Come join us next week for another. We'll take a couple more questions. When's the next sale update? Oh my gosh, this just turns into a sale VR Q&A every time. Goodness. All right.
So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple, and we're on Amazon Music. So you can find us at any of those things. And then that will be uploaded on Wednesday at noon Mountain. So yeah, you can find us there. This will be uploaded tomorrow.
Yeah. So if you missed us live, go check us out on the podcast places. You can find us and listen to our beautiful voices. And we'll be back next week for more Practically Reality stuff. So, well, guess that's it. How do we send this up? Bye.
Thanks, guys.
We will talk to y'all later.
Peace.
Peace.
You can do the duck lips.
No chance, dude. No chance. Oh, now I gotta stop on the streams without everyone noticing that we. I feel like people can still hear us most of the time.
They probably can.
Whisper.
It seems like people are liking it though.
Yeah, I've been impressed with
they can hear us still.
all the stuff we've been able to do. I don't know. I just love having these conversations, dude. It's so fun.
Oh, for sure.
It's a good little being able to get that in. Ending the stream. Boom.